October 16th, 1:47 a.m. Logan Carter's iPhone vibrated on the nightstand. He fumbled for it, his eyes half closed, but the text from his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Diaz, snapped him awake. "Logan, you need to get over here. Heard noises at your door again. Sounded like a key turning twice. And voices. I didn't want to make a sound." Logan shot up in bed, his head buzzing. The wedding was 12 days away. They had just done the final walkthrough of the new condo. The furniture was still draped in plastic dust covers, the windows cracked to air out the paint fumes. As far as he knew, besides him and his fiancée, Vera, no one else had a key. He didn't even bother tying his laces, just grabbed his car keys and bolted. The wind in the complex parking lot was cold. The hallway lights on his floor flickered, one on, one off, like they were designed to put you on edge. Stepping out of the elevator onto the 16th floor, Logan saw it from down the hall. A thin, sharp sliver of light leaked from under the door of 1602. It wasn't moonlight. It was the cold, blue light of a phone screen. He stood at the door, his fingers numb as he reached for the handle. The metal was warm, like someone had just held it. He inserted his key and gave a soft turn. The door wasn't deadbolt. The moment the door opened, the smell of spicy buffalo wings hit him, mingling with fresh paint and formaldehyde. It was enough to make him gag. The living room was dark. On the new dining table sat 2 takeout containers, greasy red sauce congealed around the edges. Next to them, an open can of craft beer, its bubbles long gone flat. A smartphone lay face up on the table, its screen glowing. The battery was in the single digits, as if it had been tossed there carelessly. A cold sweat broke out on Logan's back. He hesitated in the doorway, pulling out his own phone and opening the camera app to take a few pictures of the scene. Where were the footsteps? Mrs. Diaz said she'd heard voices, but the condo was so quiet he could hear his own ragged breathing. He crept to the entryway and looked down at the floor by the shoe rack. A small clump of dust and debris had been tracked in from the hallway. Mixed in with it was a short, dark strand of hair, the end of it still damp. Logan took a deep breath and turned to close the door behind him. The smart lock beeped. The electronic chime was unervingly crisp in the empty space, as if it were mocking him. He opened the Locks app on his phone. At the top of the access log was a new entry, 1:43 a.m., unlocked via manual key. The manual key. The physical key. Logan stared at the words, his eyes starting to burn. He remembered the day of the final walkthrough. The project manager from the contracting company handed him the keys, smiling. "Mr. Carter, you can rest easy. We treat your home like it's our own." Like it's their own? Logan's knuckles turned white as he gripped his phone. He made a silent, angry promise to himself. "Fine. If you're going to treat my home like it's yours, then I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And whoever it is, I'm going to make them pay." The next morning, Logan sent the photos he'd taken to a small group chat. There were only 3 people in it. Him, Vera, and their wedding planner. The planner was already sending reminders. "The final payment for the venue is due today, and we need to lock in the officiant." Logan ignored her and called Vera. "Vera, hey, did you sleep okay?" There was a 2-second pause on her end before she replied, her voice flat. "I did. Why? Did you go by the new place last night?" "No," she said, and it sounded like she was trying to laugh. "With those paint fumes? Why would I? Are you getting paranoid again?" Logan sent her the pictures. Takeout containers, beer, and the smart lock log. Unlocked with a manual key. Vera went silent. A moment later, a text came through. "Don't scare me, Logan. Are you sure it wasn't someone from the HOA by mistake? Or the contractors finishing up? It's been a week since the walkthrough. Who finishes a job at 1 in the morning?" She replied again. "Don't make a big deal out of this. We're about to get married. Let's not stir up trouble. Can you just take down that Ring camera? It makes our new home look like a rental. It's bad juju." Logan stared at the words bad juju. His blood ran cold. Yesterday, she was bugging him about booking the hotel for their honeymoon. Now, her first instinct was to get rid of the camera. He didn't reply. Instead, he got dressed and went down to the building manager's office. Mr. Henderson was nursing a mug of dark coffee. Logan showed him the Locks access log. "Mr. Henderson, I think someone was in my apartment last night. Can you check the security footage for me?" Henderson frowned. His first reaction wasn't surprise, but annoyance. "Hallway cameras are on the fritz. We had some water damage from that last storm. You know how it is. Maintenance requests have to go through the HOA board. What about the ones in the elevator? Henderson pointed a thumb at a monitor. Elevator cams work, but you've got 4 units on your floor. Dozens of people could have gotten off on 16. How can you prove they went to your place? Logan clenched his jaw. My smart lock has a timestamp. Henderson sighed. Look, your first step is to call the police. We're not law enforcement. We can't just hand over footage to you. It's a privacy issue for the other residents. I just want to take a look. Can't do it, Henderson said, putting the lid back on his coffee cup, his tone final. If there's a real crime, the police can come to us and we'll cooperate. But my hands are tied here. Logan just stood there, feeling like he was being held underwater. A new condo, a mountain of mortgage, a wedding breathing down his neck. And now, even trying to see his security tape felt like begging for a favor. As he turned to leave, Henderson added, Listen, son, a wedding is a big deal. Don't let a little thing get in the way. You got a good woman there. A teacher, a respectable profession. A respectable profession. Do respectable people bring takeout to eat in someone else's home in the middle of the night? Logan left the office, but didn't head to work. He went to Home Depot and bought a door sensor alarm and a large bottle of baby powder. Back at the condo, he installed the sensor on the inside of the door frame, linking it to an app on his phone. Then he went outside and sprinkled a thin, even layer of the powder under the doormat. He didn't care how it looked. He just wanted to know who was here last night. He wasn't home for long before his phone started blowing up again. The wedding planner, chasing the venue deposit. The hotel, needing a final head count for the reception. The calls were relentless, tightening around him like a noose. Logan stood on the sidewalk, telling them, I need more time to think, while his mind was racing. What kind of shoes was that person wearing last night? Did they walk with a heavy or a light step? Was it one person or two? He hung up on the planner and went into the lobby's convenience store for a bottle of water. We got back to the 16th floor. He didn't go inside right away. He knelt down and lifted a corner of the doormat. The powder was disturbed. 2 distinct footprints were pressed into it. One large, one small. The large one had a deep tread pattern with a bit of mud caked on the edge, like it had recently been on wet ground. The smaller one was from a stiletto heel, the impression like a nail driven into the powder. Logan took several pictures, then placed his hand next to the prints for scale. He wore size 10. The large print was at least an 11. Vera wore a size 6. The smaller one was a 7, maybe bigger. It wasn't them. Even more disturbing was a detail he almost missed right next to the footprints, a tiny, transparent scrap. It looked like the backing from a piece of adhesive tape, like someone had stuck something up, then ripped it down in a hurry. His eyes followed the wall next to the door. There, next to the fire extinguisher case, were 2 new screw holes. The drywall dust around them was fresh, like they'd just been drilled. Logan's heart sank. He thought about the short-term rentals he'd seen in other buildings and the little black boxes they always used, lock boxes. He knelt and touched the edge of one of the holes. The dust was still soft, leaving a white smear on his fingertip. He pulled his hand back, suddenly feeling like every light in the hallway was watching him. He pulled out his phone and called Mark, the project manager from the contracting company. Mark answered quickly, his voice cheerful. Logan, what can I do for you? Logan fought to keep his voice steady. I have a question for you. Did you guys install a lockbox outside my unit? Mark paused. A lockbox? Why would we do that? There are fresh drill holes next to my fire extinguisher, and someone was in my condo last night. Your assistant, Kevin, was seen in the building recently. Mark immediately became defensive. Whoa, hold on, Logan. Don't make wild accusations. We're a professional company. We don't do things like that. Kevin? He took some personal days. Went back to his hometown to visit family. That's funny, Logan said, his voice turning to ice. Because I'm pretty sure a man who's out of town can't leave his footprints at my door. Mark was silent for a beat, then gave a fake-sounding laugh. Look, Logan, why don't you come by the office? We can talk about this in person. It's hard to clear things up over the phone. Fiend it. Logan didn't go back to his condo. He drove straight to the contractor's office. It was in a sleek office park, with integrity in building framed on the wall and a row of customer satisfaction awards hanging behind the receptionist. When Mark saw him, he immediately offered him a bottle of water. Logan, look, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Have you and Vera been arguing? The stress before a wedding can be a lot. I get it. Logan wasn't interested in small talk. Where's Kevin? Mark sighed. He really is visiting family. Then who was in my home last night? Mark threw his hands up. Maybe it was another resident? Or one of your relatives? The place is empty, right? Still smells of paint. Maybe a cleaning crew went in to air it out. Logan stared at him. Do you actually believe what you're saying? Mark's friendly facade finally dropped. His face hardened. Mr. Carter, are you here to cause a problem? I'm here for an explanation, Logan said, laying out the screenshots of the lock log and the photos of the takeout on the table. When you handed this project over, did you reset the smart lock to its factory settings? Did you unbind the administrator account? Mark glanced at the photos, a corner of his mouth twitching. Mr. Carter, you're the one who knows who's tied to your lock, aren't you? Logan's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his expression neutral. I'm asking about your procedure. Mark tapped a finger on a document on his desk. We have procedures. 2 manual keys, final walkthrough complete, owner's signature. Look, isn't this your name right here? Logan looked at the signature line. It looked like his handwriting, but it wasn't. The final stroke of the N in his last name always curved up. On this form, it was pressed down hard. Logan looked up. I didn't sign this. Mark laughed. If you didn't sign it, who did? Don't tell me you forgot. Mr. Carter, if you're trying to find a way to get out of paying your final invoice, I've seen it all before. Logan's fingertips went cold. They had it all planned out. They were ready to push all the responsibility back onto those 4 words. You already signed it. He stood up, his voice low but firm. Fina, I'll have this handover form sent for a handwriting analysis. And I'll have the police request your work logs and a list of all personnel who had access to my unit. I'm leaving now. Mark stood up too, stepping closer and lowering his voice. Logan, don't take this too far. Vera, she wouldn't want things to get messy either. You two are getting married. You should leave some room for compromise. Logan looked at him and, to his own surprise, smiled. Compromise, he said slowly. My home is being turned into your side hustle, and you want to talk to me about compromise? He turned and walked toward the door. As he was leaving, he glanced back. On the corner of Mark's desk was a stack of black lockboxes, identical to the ones he'd seen online, still in their plastic shrink wrap. Like a fresh supply of keys ready to be distributed. A knot formed in Logan's stomach. He was finally certain. This wasn't a one-time accident. This was their business model. That afternoon, Vera came to see him. She was wearing a chic beige trench coat, her hair pulled back neatly, looking every bit the poised and professional teacher. The first thing she did when she walked in was cover her nose. It still smells in here. Logan didn't respond. He just handed her his phone, showing her the door sensor log. 10:21 this morning. The door was open once. You said you weren't here. Vera's expression changed. I wasn't. Stop trying to scare me with this stuff. Did you install this thing to record audio and video, too? Don't you think you're being a little creepy? Logan stared at her. Am I the creepy one? Or is it the person who breaks into my home in the middle of the night? Vera's voice rose. You didn't see anyone. You're accusing me based on a notification from an app? What do you think I am? As she spoke, her eyes welled up with tears, as if she were the victim of some terrible injustice. Logan looked at her familiar face, suddenly remembering how she used to save him a seat in the university library, her hands so delicate, her smile revealing 2 perfect dimples. He suppressed his anger. I'm not suspecting you. I'm suspecting the contractors. They never returned the spare key. Vera latched onto that like a lifeline. Yes, it has to be them. See? I told you not to always assume it's about me. She walked to the door and looked at the sensor. You should take this down. What if someone sees it? What will the neighbors think? That we're already spying on each other before we're even married? Logan didn't move. Vera's hand hovered over the sensor, her fingertips trembling slightly before she pulled it back. She forced a smile. I have a class to teach tonight, so I should go. Try not to overthink things. After the door closed, Logan was alone again in the silence. He stared at the door's sensor, and a realization hit him. She had wanted to rip it off. She didn't think it was tacky. She was afraid it would work. At 11 that night, Logan was lying in bed, his phone screen glowing in the dark. The door sensor hadn't triggered. He stared at it until his eyes burned. Just as he closed them, his phone buzzed. It wasn't the sensor app. It was an unknown number. Logan Carter? You're Vera Miles's fiancé, correct? I'm calling from Apex Financial. Her loan payment is 5 days overdue. As her emergency contact, we need you to remind her to resolve this immediately. Logan sat bolt upright. What loan? The man on the other end spoke in a practiced, bored tone. There are 3 separate loans, totaling $15,800. This is just a courtesy call. If the account remains delinquent, we will be forced to contact her employer. Logan's mind reeled. Vera had never mentioned any debt. She had only told him they needed $50,000 for wedding expenses to keep up appearances, and that after they were married, they would save up together to pay down the mortgage. He gripped the phone, his throat tight. Her employer? There was a pause. Yes. She listed her place of employment as Northwood University. The moment he hung up, the veins on the back of Logan's hand stood out. He suddenly understood why Vera was so desperate for that $50,000. And he suddenly understood why she panicked at the mention of calling the police. Money. She was out of money. Just then, the door sensor alarm chimed. Beep. A notification popped up on Logan's phone. Door 1602 has been opened. The time, 1:39 a.m. He grabbed his jacket and ran out the door. When he reached the end of the hall, it was silent. The door to 1602 was closed. The sensor showed it had been opened, but there was no new entry in the Smart Lock app's log. It was like an offline Bluetooth unlock. The door had opened, but the record hadn't synced to his phone. Logan stood in the hallway, a fresh wave of cold sweat trickling down his spine. He remembered what the contractors had said when they handed over the keys. We went ahead and configured the lock for you to save you the trouble. Save you the trouble. Whose trouble were they saving? The next day, Logan went straight to the official service center for the brand of smart lock he'd installed. After hearing his story, the young technician's first reaction wasn't sympathy, but caution. Dude, I need you to prove you're the owner. The back-end permissions are super strict. Logan laid out the receipt for the lock, a copy of his deed, and the installation order. The tech looked over the installation paperwork, his brow furrowing. This lock, the primary administrator account that was set up, wasn't yours. Logan's heart stopped. What do you mean? The tech pulled up a screen showing a long device ID. The administrator's phone number ends in, see here? It's 5217. That's not your number, is it? Logan's hand froze. 5217. Those are the last 4 digits of Vera's cell phone number. The tech continued, and I'm seeing multiple offline Bluetooth unlocks here. The system defaults those to an other category, so they might not have shown up in your app's main log. Do you want to request a full data export? It's a process, though. You'd probably need a police report or a subpoena from a lawyer. Logan felt like someone had their hands around his throat. It wasn't a manual key. It was an administrator-level Bluetooth command, which meant that whoever was coming into his home at night might not have needed a key at all. All they needed was a phone. Get close enough to the door, and it would open. He walked out of the service center and stood on the sidewalk. The sun was bright, but he felt no warmth at all. He sent a text to Vera. We need to talk tonight. She replied almost instantly. What's wrong? What did you find out now? Logan stared at the screen and typed 4 words. Stop playing dumb. 10 minutes of silence passed on her end. Then, a new message appeared. What is it you really want? Logan clenched his phone and let out a short, bitter laugh. What did he want? He just wanted an answer. And he wanted to know, did the person he was about to marry even see him as a human being? That night, Logan didn't go to meet Vera. He went to the new condo. He sat on the floor of the living room, his back against the couch, and didn't turn on the lights. The door sensor was active on his phone. He placed a can of pepper spray next to him and clutched his keys in his palm. The minutes ticked by. At 1:43 a.m., he heard faint footsteps in the hall. They weren't the heavy thud of someone getting off the elevator, but quiet, deliberate steps, as if trying not to wake someone. Logan held his breath. The doorknob turned, almost silently. A second later, the electronic lock made a soft click. The door swung open. A beam from a cell phone flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating the dust covers in the living room. A man's shadow, long and thin, was cast on the wall. Behind him, a woman followed, carrying a large bag. The tips of her shoes scraped softly against the tile floor. From the darkness, Logan heard the man whisper, "Hurry up. Don't turn on the lights. The neighbors are watching this place." The woman mumbled, "Okay. Where's the key?" "Don't need one," the man muttered. "My phone opens it." Logan's temples throbbed. This wasn't a break-in. This was a well-rehearsed routine. He didn't jump out. He turned on his phone's video recorder, shielding the screen's glow with his leg, the camera aimed at the doorway. The man slipped off his shoes in the entryway with the casualness of someone coming home. As the flashlight beam swept across the room, Logan got a clear view of his profile. Kevin, Mark's assistant from the contracting company. The same guy from the team photo they'd taken on the first day of the project, standing off to the side. The first thing Kevin did wasn't to look for valuables, but to walk to the dining table and lift a corner of the dust cover, as if inspecting the cleanliness. Last guest said it smelled like paint, he grumbled. Spray some air freshener. I don't want another complaint. The woman took a small spray bottle from her bag and spritzed it twice. A cloyingly sweet floral scent mixed with the chemical fumes, making Logan's head spin. He felt a surge of nausea. Clenching his jaw, he quietly slid the security chain into place on his side of the door. Then he dialed 911. When the operator answered, his voice was as steady and cold as ice. There are intruders in my home. They're inside right now. I'm on the premises. The operator told him to stay safe, avoid confrontation, and that officers were on their way. Logan hung up, his palms slick with sweat. Kevin seemed to have heard something. He glanced back toward the living room. It was too dark. He didn't see Logan behind the couch. He cursed under his breath. Why is it so quiet tonight? I thought the owner was out of town. The woman whispered, "Oh, the owner? Who do you think?" Kevin said, annoyed. Whatever. His fiancée gave us the all clear. Just stop asking questions. Logan's fingernails dug into his palm. His fiancée gave us the all clear. Vida. 3 minutes later, he heard the elevator ding, followed by the sound of urgent footsteps in the hall. An officer knocked firmly on the door. Police. Open up. The color drained from Kevin's face. He turned to run toward the bedroom. Logan rose from behind the couch, blocking his path. His voice was raw. Where do you think you're going? Kevin's eyes went wide with shock as he saw him, the realization dawning on him instantly. He shoved Logan hard, trying to get to the door. Logan didn't dodge. His shoulder slammed against the wall, a numbing pain shooting through it, but he held tight to Kevin's arm. The woman screamed and shrank into a corner. The officers burst in, wrestled Kevin to the ground, and a sharp click of handcuffs echoed in the room. Kevin was still struggling. It's a misunderstanding. I was just checking on a model unit. I have a key. An officer's voice cut him off cold and hard. And where did you get that key? Kevin's mouth trembled. He didn't answer. Logan stood nearby, shaking, his throat feeling like it had been scraped with sandpaper. The officer looked at the takeout containers, then at the dust-covered furniture, his brow furrowed. Does anyone live here? No, Logan answered. It's for my wedding. The ceremony is next week. The officer gave him a long look. And your fiancée? Logan didn't say anything. He suddenly realized that, standing here in front of a police officer, he couldn't even bring himself to say the word fiancée. It was nearly 3 a.m. by the time they finished taking his statement. Kevin had been taken away. Before they left, the officers had him open his backpack. When the zipper opened, Logan's heart sank to the floor. It wasn't filled with tools or construction materials. It was filled with stacks of laminated A4 paper. Self-check-in instructions, checkout procedures, security deposit policy. Each one was printed cleanly, like a flyer you'd get at a motel front desk. There were also several unopened lockboxes, their black shells stacked together, their hard edges digging into the fabric of the bag like a pile of bricks. And at the very bottom, a large ring of keys. Dangling from the ring were plastic tags with different unit numbers. 1601, 1602, 1603, a long, clinking chain of them. Logan stared at the keys, his throat dry. He had a sudden, absurd thought. To them, every door on this floor was just a drawer in a filing cabinet, to be opened whenever they pleased. An officer looked up at him. Besides you, who else has keys to your apartment? Logan's voice was hoarse. Me and my fiancée. The officer paused. Your fiancée? What's her number? Logan's fingers stiffened. It wasn't that he didn't want to give it to them. It was that he couldn't face the moment when the officer dialed. Vera's name flashed on the screen, and everyone in the room turned to look at him. He gave them the number anyway. The officer dialed it right there in front of him. It rang for a long time. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. He put his phone away, his tone growing colder. Tell her to come down to the precinct to cooperate with our investigation as soon as possible. We'll leave her a message. The woman who had come with Kevin was huddled in the corner, her face pale. The officer turned to her. Who are you? What are you doing here? Her voice trembled with fear. I booked a room. I booked it on an app. I thought it was an Airbnb. I paid for it. She fumbled for her phone and pulled up the reservation to show the officer. The booking confirmation read, room rate $120, security deposit $50. And in the field for the host name, 2 words were clearly visible, Vera Miles. The woman saw the name and froze. As if she'd just understood something, her face flushed with shame and anger. I didn't know it wasn't her place. I swear, I had no idea. The host just said the key was in a lockbox by the fire extinguisher, that the code changed daily, and to keep the lights off and be quiet. I just thought she was worried about neighbor complaints. Her voice grew quieter and quieter until she was on the verge of tears. I just wanted a quiet place to stay for the night. I wasn't trying to get away with anything. Logan stood there, that wave of nausea washing over him again. It wasn't because of the woman. It was because of the system. They had packaged keep the lights off and don't disturb the neighbors as house rules. They had disguised trespassing as self-check-in and invading someone's life as a boutique stay. And he had almost been the one who was packaged up and sold off. Before leaving, the officer told him, "This involves unlawful entry of a residence, so we'll proceed accordingly. Make sure you preserve all your evidence, especially the smart lock logs and any records of authorization between you and your fiancé. The contracting company may also be implicated." Logan nodded. He saw the officers out and closed the door, his back sliding down the cool wood until he was sitting on the floor. The room was a mess. The greasy Red Wing sauce had stained the new dining table like a dirty wound. He looked down at his phone. A new message had popped up in the wedding planning group chat. "Logan, the venue is chasing for the final payment. If it's not in by midnight, they're going to release your date." Logan stared at the message, his eyes aching. He suddenly remembered what Vera had said a couple of days ago. Don't make a big deal out of this. We're about to get married. He now realized that don't make a big deal wasn't about saving face. It was about not messing up their business. The next morning, Vera finally called. Her voice was soft, as if she were afraid of being overheard. "You went to the condo last night?" Logan ignored her question. "Do you know a guy named Kevin?" "Vera paused. Do. He's Mark's assistant." "Why?" "He was arrested last night after bringing someone into our home." There was a loud crash on the other end of the line, like a glass hitting the floor. Vera's breathing became ragged. "You called the cops? What else was I supposed to do?" Logan let out a humorless laugh. "I thought you said I was just being paranoid." Vera's voice turned shrill. "Why didn't you talk to me first? Blowing this up isn't going to do either of us any good." "It's not going to do you any good, you mean?" Logan's voice was flat. "Vera, I'm going to ask you one question. Just answer yes or no. Have you been renting out our home on Airbnb?" The line went dead silent. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "Are you insane? Why would I ever do something like that?" Logan didn't argue. He opened his laptop and went to the Airbnb website. He had already done the search last night while waiting at the police precinct. He found the listing. The title was flashy, luxury Scandi style / smart home / river view / self check-in. The cover photo was his living room. His couch, his floor lamp, the protective film still on the TV. He could even see the fold creases in the new rug he just bought. The host's screen name, Dreamweaver. Number of stays, 19. The most recent review read, "The place is brand new and super clean." Host was very responsive with the code. Just have to be quiet and keep a low profile with the neighbors. Logan's stomach churned. He clicked reserve. After entering the dates, a prompt appeared. "Please contact the host for check-in details." He switched to a burner account with a generic profile picture and sent a message. "Hey, is the place available tonight? Had a fight with my girlfriend, just need a quiet place to crash." Less than a minute later, a reply came through. "Yes, it is. Special price for tonight, $120. It's self-check-in. Please don't use the main overhead lights when you go in. The key is in a lockbox next to the fire extinguisher. The code is 4 digits. Logan stared at the word lockbox, his fingers going cold. No wonder the lock log showed manual key. They weren't giving out the passcode to the door at all. They were putting the physical key in a lockbox and giving guests the code to that. He clicked pay. The Venmo payment screen popped up. The recipient's name, Vera M. Those 2 asterisks were like a knife twisting in his gut. He clicked to see the details. The full name on the account, Vera Miles. Logan stared at the screen, his throat tightening. He remembered Vera complaining that Mrs. Diaz was just a nosy old lady. He remembered her saying the Ring camera was bad juju. He remembered her pleading with him not to make a big deal. Every single word had been deliberate. Every word was designed to keep him in the dark. He didn't confront Vera right away. First, he went back to the condo. As he pulled into his spot in the parking garage, he realized his palms were so sweaty they'd left damp prints all over the steering wheel. He pulled the brim of his baseball cap down low and tugged his mask up over his nose. He knew he looked ridiculous, but he was terrified of running into a neighbor in the elevator and having them casually ask, "I thought you guys weren't living here yet," and completely losing it right then and there. Following the host's instructions, he walked to the fire extinguisher case. The hallway was quiet. The sound of a distant door opening echoed for a long time. Attached to the side of the metal case was a small, black lockbox. The plastic casing was worn smooth, with white scratches near the number pad from fingernails. Logan stared at it, his throat constricting. He entered the 4-digit code. Click! The front cover sprang open. Inside, 3 keys were hanging on small hooks. Each key had a small plastic tag attached. 1602, 1605, 1608. An icy chill shot through him. They weren't just renting out his unit. They were treating the entire floor, maybe the entire building, as their personal inventory. He raised his phone to take a picture, but his hand was shaking so badly he couldn't get it to focus. It took 3 attempts to get a clear shot. He didn't dare take the keys. As satisfying as it would be, he knew it would just give them an excuse to turn it around on him, to claim he was the one who lost them. He hung the keys back up and closed the lockbox. Then, he took a tiny piece of clear tape from his pocket and carefully placed it over the seam where the cover closed. Just like the powder under the doormat, he needed to leave a trace. He needed to know if this box would be opened again tonight. Only after doing all of this did he use his own key to open the door to 1602. The sound of the deadbolt retracting was soft, but to Logan, it sounded like a blade being sharpened right next to his ear. The lights were off, but the floor lamp in the living room was now plugged in. A small night light on the power strip cast a faint, warm yellow glow. He hadn't bought that lamp. On the coffee table was a laminated A4 sheet of paper. At the top, it read, "Self-check-in instructions. Upon entry, please do not turn on the main living room lights to avoid disturbing the neighbors. Please maintain quiet after 10:30 p.m. and do not loiter in the hallway. The key must be returned to the lockbox and the lid closed securely. Otherwise, the security deposit will be forfeited." In the bottom right corner, a line in small print, "Contact the host with any issues." Below was a phone number for WhatsApp. Logan glanced at it, and his stomach lurched violently. He had that number memorized. It was Vera's. He stood in the middle of his living room, feeling as though someone had just dumped a bucket of ice water over his head. He walked to the dining table. A stack of disposable cups and paper-wrapped slippers sat there, the slippers arranged neatly in a row from smallest to largest. On the bottom shelf of the shoe rack was a pair of women's high heels he'd never seen before. Stilettos, pointed toe, with a smudge of mud on one heel. They weren't Vera's. Logan stared at them for a long time, but didn't touch them. He was afraid that if he did, he would lose control and hurl them against the wall. He went into the bathroom. On the counter was a bottle of cheap disinfectant spray, next to a stack of disposable face towels and several small sample packets of shampoo. A sticky note was stuck to the mirror. For cleaning crew, linens must be changed, all trash removed. No lingeringo this. Below there was a name, Maria. Logan gripped the note, his fingers trembling. He suddenly understood why the smell of buffalo wings had been left to linger on the table. They weren't worried. They had a cleaning crew. They had a process. They were running his marital home like a cheap motel. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Logan pushed it open a few inches, but didn't go in. He just stood in the doorway and saw the bed, made with crisp white sheets. 2 pillows were at the head. The pillowcases new, but the indentations in them weren't the crisp folds of a new set. They were the soft collapses of having been slept on. He swallowed hard and slammed the door shut. Crack! The sound echoed through the empty condo, like him slapping his own face. He walked through the living room one more time, methodically photographing every piece of evidence. The instruction sheets, the QR codes, the lockbox, everything. By the time he was done, he realized he didn't feel angry anymore. Just sick. A deep, physical revulsion. He backed out of the condo, closed the door, and locked it. As he walked down the hall, He heard the door to Mrs. Diaz's apartment click softly, as if someone were watching him through the peephole. Logan didn't look up. He was afraid that if he did, he would see a single thought in her eyes. I knew someone was living in your place. He sat in his car for a long time. Condensation fogged up the windows. He wiped away a small patch and saw his own reflection. His eyes were shot with red. He looked completely drained. Once he managed to pull himself out of that pit of disgust, he went to a notary public. The paralegal listened to his story and frowned. You want to get a certified record of a web page? You'll have to do it on site here. We'll do a full screen recording, take certified screenshots, and print everything. It'll be about $1,800. Are you sure? Logan nodded. I'm sure. $1,800 wasn't cheap, but he knew that the moment they took the listing down, he wouldn't even have the grounds to argue. The paralegal used the firm's computer to log into Airbnb, search for his building, find the listing, make a reservation, pay for it, receive the lockbox code, and screenshot the payment information. Every click of the mouse felt like a hammer blow to Logan's face. The moment he had the certified, notarized documents in his hand, a strange sense of calm washed over him. He was so calm that even the rage felt distant, like it was behind a thick pane of glass. He just felt like an idiot. He had scraped together everything from both their families to afford this place. To keep up appearances, he had agreed to the $50,000 wedding fund, the expensive venue, the whole charade because a professor's family has standards. And in return, his home was being sold off, one night at a time. That evening, Vera came over. She walked in and immediately demanded, "What's the situation with Kevin? Are the police going to make a huge deal out of this?" "I'm telling you, we should just handle this privately." Logan placed a thick, notarized document on the coffee table. "Read this first." Vera flipped through the first few pages, and the color slowly drained from her face. Her hands started to shake. "You were spying on me?" "I booked a night in my own condo," Logan said, looking her straight in the eye. "The payment went to you. The host account is registered in your name. The lockbox code came from you. How else am I supposed to misunderstand this?" Vera's lips trembled, and tears immediately streamed down her face. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear I didn't." She cried beautifully, her voice kept low, as if she were worried about the neighbors hearing. "I needed the money," she said, looking up at him. "Do you have any idea how much pressure I've been under these last few months? I just couldn't handle it anymore." Logan asked, "You needed money. Did you ever tell me that?" Vera shook her head, tears splattering on the certified documents. "I couldn't. I was afraid you'd think I was a burden. I was afraid the wedding would be called off, that my parents would be humiliated." Logan's voice was cold as steel. "So you rented out my home?" Vera bit her lip. "Kevin said lots of people do it with empty condos before they move in. Just for the night. The cleaners come in the morning, it doesn't affect anything. See? We didn't even touch your things, didn't touch them." Logan gestured toward the memory of the takeout containers. "You call that not touching anything?" Her crying grew more frantic. "It disgusted me, too. I didn't want to do it, but I had no other choice." She suddenly grabbed Logan's hand, her fingertips ice cold. "Logan, we're about to get married. Please, just help me this one time. Give me the $50,000 for the wedding now. I can pay off what I owe. After we're married, I swear I'll change. I swear." Logan pulled his hand away. "How much do you owe?" Vera's eyes darted away. "It's not much, just a little. The collection agency said $15,800. Is there more?" Vera's shoulders trembled. She finally whispered, $80,000. Logan stared at her. "What did you do with $80,000? She clenched her jaw. "An investment that went bad." "What kind of investment?" "Just an investment," she said stubbornly. Logan didn't press her further. He simply took out his phone, found a recording of the collection call, and played it. When Vera heard the words, "Contact her employer," her face went ashen. Suddenly, she was like a different person. Her voice became sharp and high-pitched. "You recorded me? How could you be so manipulative?" Logan looked at her. "Who's the manipulative one here?" "You." Vera wiped at her tears, her words coming out in a rush, like a student trying to answer a question in class before anyone else. "You were just looking for a way to threaten me, weren't you? You think I'm not good enough for you now? Well, don't you forget, I co-signed on that mortgage. I'm Atsuborover." Logan's expression darkened. Co-borrower. She had finally played her trump card. She wasn't asking for his help. She was reminding him, You can't get away from me. In that moment, Logan understood. This wasn't an argument about a pre-wedding discovery. This was a business transaction where he was about to be dragged down into the mud with her. Logan stood up and grabbed his coat. The wedding is off. Tomorrow, we're going to the bank to sever your connection to this mortgage. And if we can't, I'll find another way. Vera shot to her feet. You wouldn't dare. Tears still clung to her eyelashes, but her eyes were now as sharp as daggers. If you call off this wedding, I'll go to your office. I'll let your boss know exactly what kind of man you are. I'll make it so your parents can never show their faces in front of our relatives again. Logan stopped at the door and turned back to look at her. Vera, do you really think I'm afraid of being embarrassed? He held up his phone. That threat about coming to my office? I recorded that too. You want to make a scene? I'll send the notarized documents and the police report to the dean at your university. Then we'll see who gets embarrassed first. Vera's face froze. She opened her mouth, as if she wanted to scream at him or maybe beg for mercy. Finally, she whispered, Don't push me. Logan laughed. I'm pushing you? You're sneaking strangers into my home in the middle of the night, and you're telling me not to push you. He walked out, and as the door closed behind him, he heard a sharp, piercing cry from inside the room. It was the sound of someone having their last shred of dignity ripped away. Vera didn't contact him for the next 3 days. But trouble did. Mark, the contractor, called him. His voice was sickeningly polite. Mr. Carter, I hear there was a little misunderstanding with my assistant. Our company takes this very seriously, and we're prepared to offer compensation. How about we handle this privately? $50,000 for your trouble. You drop the police complaint, and we can all move on. Logan asked, Drop what? Mark chuckled. You know what I mean? This whole police thing. We're all business people here. Things get messy. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for you, Logan said flatly. My home was rented out 19 times. You think 50 grand covers that? Mark's tone shifted. Mr. Carter, you're being unreasonable. It's not like you were living there, right? Don't drag our company into a little fight between you and your fiancé. So, because I wasn't living there, it's okay for anyone to just walk in? Logan said, his voice hard. Your assistant had the lockbox code and Bluetooth access to my door. How is that not dragging your company into it? Mark was quiet for a moment, then lowered his voice. Look, I'm not going to spell it out for you. You're about to get married. You don't want to ruin the wedding. And your fiancée, she might not want you to keep digging, either. Logan gripped his phone, his knuckles white. Of course. They had always seen Vera as one of them. After he hung up, he received a text from an unknown number. Dude, no one to quit. If you want to make this a war, we're ready. We know where your parents live. Logan stared at the text, his hands cold. His first reaction wasn't fear, but a white-hot rage. A rage that made him want to smash his phone into 1,000 pieces. But in the next second, he forced himself to calm down. He knew that the worst thing he could do right now was act on impulse. He called his friend Jason, a lawyer. Jason listened to the whole story and cursed. These guys have some nerve. Then he said, Okay, you need to do 2 things right now. First, complete your evidence chain. Get the full back-end logs from the law company, the official police report, the notarized documents, and the transaction history from Airbnb. Second, protect yourself and your family. File a police report about the threat, and if you can, apply for a restraining order. At the very least, create a paper trail. Logan asked, Can I get her off the mortgage? Jason sighed. Removing a co-borrower isn't easy. The bank has to approve it. Your most immediate priority is to legally terminate the engagement. Don't let her debt become your marital debt. The longer you wait, the more dangerous it gets for you. Logan was silent. He thought of Vera's words. I'm a co-borrower. It wasn't an angry outburst. It was a leash. He hung up with Jason and drove straight to the bank that held his mortgage. He'd been to this branch several times. He remembered sitting in the waiting area with Vera, trying to get the loan approved. She had a pen out, making notes in the margins of the contract, as serious as if she were grading a student's paper. The loan officer, a young man named Chris, smiled when he saw him. Hey, Logan, how's the wedding planning going? I thought you said it was the end of October. Logan didn't smile back. He placed the contract on the desk. I have a question. Is it possible to remove a co-borrower from the loan? Chris's hand paused as he was flipping through the contract. He looked up. Are you 2 married yet? Legally? No, Chris seemed to relax. Oh, that's good. Good how? Chris lowered his voice. If you're not married, Things aren't legally entangled yet. If you were, and she had issues, it could affect you much more broadly. Logan stared at him. Are you saying she has issues with her credit? Chris hedged. I can't discuss another person's financial information, but you submitted her documents as part of the application. You might want to take another look at them. As for removing her, the standard procedure is a full reapplication. We'd have to reassess your ability to carry the loan on your own, and the co-borrower has to be present to sign the removal forms. Both of you have to be here, and if she refuses to come, Chris shook his head, then you can't remove her. The bank can't just change the terms of a loan based on one person's request. Logan's fingers tightened. If she defaults on other debts, can that affect me? Chris sighed. As a co-borrower, you're both on the hook for the mortgage. That's for sure. As for her outside debts, since you're not married, you're probably safe. But if you were, things could get very messy. Logan, I'll just say this. Think very carefully about your next steps. Logan walked out of the bank, holding the contract, the sunlight blinding. He stood on the sidewalk, a wave of dizziness washing over him. He realized the leash wasn't just words. It was written into a legally binding contract. He called Vera. Meet me at the bank tomorrow. We need to handle the co-borrower situation. Vera scoffed on the other end. You're trying to kick me to the curb? I'm not kicking you anywhere. I'm cutting ties, Logan said, his voice tight with anger. Don't drag me down with your debt. Vera's voice turned shrill. Drag you down? Are you forgetting how we got this mortgage approved in the first place? Without my income statement, you think you would have qualified on your own? Logan was silent for a second. Right now, I'm just glad we never got married. Vera gasped, as if she was shaking with rage. You can forget it. I'm not going. You want me off the loan? Then pay up. Give me the $50,000 first. The line went dead. Logan stood on the sidewalk, a knot of anger and anxiety tightening in his chest. He finally understood what Jason meant by the longer you wait, the more dangerous it gets. Every day he waited was another day she had leverage. He had just gotten back to his desk at work when the receptionist called out to him. Logan, someone's here to see you. Says he's a friend of yours. Logan's stomach dropped. He went downstairs. Standing by the entrance were two men. One wore a baseball cap pulled down low. The other had a tattoo coiling up his hand. The man in the cap smiled when he saw him. You Logan Carter? Vera's guy. Logan's voice was cold. Who are you? The man flashed his phone screen at him. We're looking for Vera. She's not answering our calls or texts. We figured you could give us an update. Don't make things difficult for us. A security guard walked over. What's going on here? You can't cause trouble here. The man's smile vanished, his tone turning menacing. We're not causing trouble. We're just asking when Vera is going to pay what she owes. As he spoke, his eyes flickered down to Logan's employee ID badge, as if memorizing the company name. Logan felt his face flush, not with shame, with fury. He looked at the two men and said, slowly and clearly, she owes you money. You go find her. If you ever come to my workplace again, I will call the police, and I will make sure every threat is recorded. The man in the cap smiled again, a thin, cruel smile. All right, don't say we didn't warn you. You two are getting married anyway. We can always just see you at the wedding. The guard escorted them out. Logan walked back upstairs, feeling the stares of his co-workers like needles on his back. He sat down at his desk, his hands shaking as he pulled out his phone. The wedding planning chat was still active. Final payment due. Final headcount confirmed. In that moment, he was struck by the absurdity of it all. He wasn't even the administrator of his own front door, and he was supposed to be someone's groom. He deleted the group chat. The venue coordinator called. Mr. Carter, if you cancel now, your deposit is non-refundable. Logan said, I don't care. The coordinator paused. Are you sure, sir? Your wedding is next Saturday, I'm sure. After he hung up, he felt a sudden emptiness in his chest. It wasn't about the money. It was about the loss of what was supposed to have been. That night, Logan drove to his parents' house. At the dinner table, his mother was the first to speak. You canceled the venue? Have you lost your mind? Logan explained the situation as simply as he could. His mother slammed her chopsticks on the table. Vera would never do something like that. She's a teacher. Did someone put you up to this? Are you seeing someone else? Logan was stunned. He never imagined the first knife in his back would come from his own mother. His father spoke quietly. Do you have proof? Logan laid out the notarized documents, the police report, and the screenshots from the lock's back-end system. His mother's face changed as she looked them over. but she remained stubborn. She must have been tricked. You two are about to be married. Can't you just let this go? What will our relatives think? How are we supposed to face them? Logan stared at his mother. How am I supposed to live my life? She's $80,000 in debt. If she's willing to rent out my home by the night, she'd be willing to sell me off by the month. At that point, what the relatives think won't matter, because our family will be ruined. His mother's eyes turned red. How can you be so heartless? Logan didn't argue anymore. He was suddenly exhausted, so tired that even explaining felt like a waste of energy. He said only one thing. Mom, saving face won't pay the bills. And it certainly won't save your life. It was raining when he left his parents' house. Logan sat in his car, the raindrops hitting the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists. His phone rang again. Another unknown number. This is Logan, right? Your girlfriend owes us money. You'd better convince her to pay up. Your wedding is coming up. It would be a shame if things got ugly at the ceremony. Logan gripped the steering wheel. Who is this? The person on the other end laughed. You don't need to know who we are. You just need to remember that the debts she owes will be collected one way or another. After the call ended, Logan realized his palms were drenched in sweat. He was finally sure of one thing. Vera wasn't just in a little financial trouble. She was involved with dangerous people, and they were ready to drag him down with her. The next day, Logan and Jason went to the police precinct. He handed over the threatening text messages and the recordings of the collection calls. An officer reviewed them and said, "We'll file a report. In the meantime, avoid engaging with these individuals on your own. If anything else happens, call us immediately." Logan nodded. From the precinct, they went back to the Smart Lock Service Center. This time, Jason presented a formal letter from his law firm, demanding a full export of all back-end data. Every unlock record, administrator account information, and a list of all authorized devices. The technician didn't push back this time. "We'll submit the request. It should take 3 to 5 business days." 3 to 5 days. Logan cursed under his breath. But he knew this was how the real world worked. If you wanted proof, you had to go through the process, step by step. And Vera wasn't going to wait for him. Sure enough, she showed up at his apartment that afternoon. She wasn't crying. She wore no makeup. Her face was pale and her eyes were red, as if she hadn't slept in days. She walked in and said, "Logan, my parents know. They want to see you." Logan asked, "Do they know about the money you owe?" Vera was silent. Logan laughed. "They don't. You just told them I was being unreasonable, didn't you?" Vera gritted her teeth. "I didn't say that." "Then what did you say?" Her voice trembled. "I told them you were under a lot of stress and needed some space." "Logan, don't take this to the extreme. You know how important a reputation is for a teacher. If you ruin me, I won't let you walk away unscathed." Logan looked at her and felt like he was seeing a stranger. When she used to lecture, her voice was gentle. She was always saying, "Class, don't be nervous." Now, she was talking about being ruined, her eyes cold, as if she were negotiating a deal. Logan pushed the notarized documents toward her. "First, you take down the Airbnb listing. You remove the lockbox. You revoke all unauthorized access to the lock. Then, we can talk about ending the engagement." Vera stared at him. "Fine, we can end the engagement, but you still have to give me the 50,000. Logan thought he had misheard her. "I haven't given you anything yet." Her voice grew harder. "You didn't give it to me, but you promised it. If you break that promise, then you're the one calling off the wedding. What about my family's reputation? What about my parents?" Logan looked at her and finally understood. She had never wanted a marriage. She wanted money. She wanted a bailout. She wanted a way to save face. Logan said, "I'm not giving you a dime." Vera's expression turned to ice. "If you don't, then we'll just stay engaged. You won't get me off the mortgage. And the people I owe, when they can't find me, they'll come find you. Do you think your parents can handle that? Does your job?" Logan stared at her and said, slowly and clearly, "Let them come." Vera froze. She clearly hadn't expected the man who had always been willing to compromise to suddenly stand his ground. Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to say something else, but in the end, she just turned and left. After the door closed, Logan locked it and sat down on the couch in a daze. The door sensor was still active. He suddenly felt like that tiny device was a nail, pinning him from his fantasy world back to brutal reality. 2 days later, the lock company sent over the back-end data report. The unlock records were a dense, long list. Besides his and Vera's fingerprint scans, there was a long series of Bluetooth unlocks from an unknown device. The device ID was listed as CK Android. Jason looked at it. CK. Kevin. Logan held the report, his fingertips cold. But what made his heart ache was something else. In the list of administrator authorizations, there was an entry for a temporary credential. The recipient, Vera Miles. The authorization date, the same day the contractors had handed over the condo. The authorization period, indefinite. In other words, from the day he got the keys, it had been Vera. Jason said, "This is more than enough. You can move on two fronts now. Criminally, you cooperate with the police. Civilly, you can sue the contracting company for damages and illegal profiteering. We can also send a demand letter to Airbnb for the full transaction records." Logan nodded, but he knew the hardest part wasn't the lawsuit. It was severing this relationship for good. That night, Vera's parents asked to meet him at a restaurant. As soon as they sat down, her mother smiled. "Logan, our Vera has always been such a good girl. It's normal for couples to have disagreements. You're young, don't be so extreme." Her father didn't say a word, just kept putting food on Logan's plate, as if he could silence him with hospitality. Logan didn't eat. He laid out the evidence, page by page. Vera's mother's smile slowly froze on her face. Her father's chopsticks stopped in midair. Vera sat next to them, pale, her eyes darting around the room. Her mother was the first to explode. "How could you do something like this? That's his home." Vera whispered, "I had no choice. I owed money." "What money?" her father demanded, his voice dangerously low. Vera bit her lip and said nothing. Logan played the recording of the collection call. The table fell silent. Vera's father's face turned beet red, the veins on the back of his hands bulging. "You owe $80,000? Vera finally broke down. "I didn't want to. I was just foolish. I thought I could win it back." Her mother's voice trembled. "Win what back? Were you gambling?" Vera shot her head up. "No." She was defiant. But in that moment, Logan realized it didn't matter whether she was telling the truth or not. What mattered was that, from the very beginning, she had chosen to lie. Vera's father turned to Logan, his voice hoarse. "Logan, we are so sorry. Whatever you decide to do, we'll accept it. The wedding, if you don't want to go through with it, then don't. We don't want the $50,000. Her mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We'll go home and get you her phone, her account passwords, everything. We'll pay back what we can. Please, just don't press charges. If she loses her job, her life is over." Logan looked at them and felt no satisfaction, only a profound weariness. He said calmly, "I didn't call the police to ruin her. I called them to save myself. I can't marry someone who treats my home like a business." Vera looked up, her eyes filled with hatred. "You just think I'm dragging you down." Logan looked at her. "I can handle being dragged down. What I can't handle is being lied to, manipulated, and used as a shield." Vera opened her mouth to curse at him, but her father raised his hand and slapped her across the face. The sound was sharp and loud. Vera froze, tears hanging on her face like shattered glass. Her father, his eyes red, looked at Logan. "Logan, you should go. And don't look back." That night, as Logan walked out of the restaurant, the wind was cold. He stood on the sidewalk and realized his hand was shaking. Not from fear, from the aftershock of what could have been. He had come so close to handing over the rest of his life to a pile of secrets. Over the next month, the dominoes began to fall. At the precinct, Kevin confessed that the contracting company had a long-running scheme of using the pretense of a model unit to rent out unoccupied client properties on Airbnb. A portion of the profits went to the homeowners as hush money, while the company pocketed the rest. Vera wasn't the only one. She was just the sloppiest. She had used her real name to collect the payments. Following the trail, the police discovered several other lockboxes in the building. When an officer went to collect evidence, he saw the lockbox by the fire extinguisher still had the piece of clear tape Logan had placed on it, now wrinkled and torn. Inside, the key ring clinked with tags for more than just 1602. The threatening text messages and the two men who had shown up at his office were brought in for questioning, given a formal warning, and never bothered him again. The building's HOA was questioned. Airbnb cooperated by taking down the listings and providing transaction records, and Vera's host account was permanently banned. The contracting company started to panic. They tried to settle, their offer jumping from $50,000 to $150,000. Logan didn't take a cent. He just told Jason, "I want them to be held accountable. I want to make sure no one else dares to treat another person's home like their personal business." The day the civil suit was filed, the courthouse was crowded. As Logan waited in line with his documents, he saw a young couple arguing at one of the windows. The woman was holding a baby and crying, while the man stared at the floor in silence. He suddenly remembered that he was supposed to be at a window, just like that, submitting his marriage license application. He was at a different window, and he was submitting a lawsuit. After filing, Logan learned just how draining the words legal battle could be. Every request for more documents meant another trip to the courthouse. Every revision to the evidence list meant printing another thick stack of paper. Getting the transaction records from Airbnb wasn't as simple as asking. It required subpoenas and formal procedures. The back-end data from the smart lock company needed to be officially certified to be considered admissible evidence. The handwriting analysis of the handover form came back. The signature was not Logan's. The contractor's defense of "you already signed it" was officially dead. He worked during the day and organized documents at night. His desk was covered in notarized papers, police reports, screenshots, and transcribed audio recordings. The wedding invitations were still in his desk drawer. The stack of red cards was a constant reminder. You were supposed to be living a different life. The day the notice for mediation arrived, Jason told him over the phone, "You should go. It's best if we can settle this, but if not, we'll be ready for trial." Logan just said, "Okay." He didn't tell any of his colleagues. He didn't want anyone to know that he had almost allowed his own home to be rented out one night at a time. At the mediation, the air conditioning in the courthouse conference room was blasting, cold enough to make his fingers ache. Logan and Jason sat on one side of the table. Across from them sat the contractor's in-house counsel, Mark, and another lawyer in an expensive suit. Mark's hair was slicked back with gel, his suit jacket buttoned neatly. He looked much more respectable than he had when he was trying to placate Logan in his office. The mediator reviewed the file and looked up. "Does the contracting company admit to entering the owner's property without authorization and renting it out?" The company's lawyer immediately spoke. "We do not. We believe this was a misunderstanding. First, the actions were taken by an employee acting independently. Second, the owner's party signed a handover form upon completion and did not report any issues in a timely manner, implying tacit consent." "Tacit consent?" Jason scoffed, sliding the document across the table. "The handwriting analysis is right here. The signature is not his. He already signed it. Defense won't work. And you claim was an employee acting alone? Then why did this employee have a key ring for multiple units in the building and a template for self-check-in instructions in his bag? Why were the photos on the Airbnb listing the same ones your company used for its portfolio? And why did this continue for so long if the profits weren't going through the company?" The lawyer faltered and looked at Mark. Mark cleared his throat and said, "Our company does maintain properties for showcase purposes. And the owner's fiancé was aware of the situation." The mediator raised an eyebrow. The owner's fiancé being aware is the same as the owner giving authorization? Mark's eyes shifted. They were about to be married. Hearing this, Logan finally spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear. "I did not give my authorization, and we will not be getting married." The room was silent for a moment. The mediator nodded, his gaze falling on the notarized documents Jason had submitted. The certified evidence of the online listing, the booking, and the payment information are all here. The recipient of the payment was Vera Miles. "How do you explain that?" The lawyer tried to argue. "That only proves who received the money." The mediator held up a hand, cutting him off. "Proving the recipient doesn't exonerate the contracting company. On the contrary, when combined with the police report, the smart lock data, and the evidence of the lockbox, it forms a complete chain of events. Do you still want to insist this was a misunderstanding?" The color drained from Mark's face. He finally dropped the condescending "don't make a big deal" act. His voice softened. "Your Honor, we are willing to offer compensation. Mr. Carter, please name your price. Let's just put this behind us." Logan looked at him and almost laughed. He had heard those words before over the phone, and he had almost been fooled by the promise of making it all go away. Now, All he could think was, you're scared. You're scared of this going into a public judgment. You're scared of word getting out in the industry. You're scared that no one will ever trust you with their keys again. Jason slid a document across the table. Our demands are clearly listed. 1. Compensation for damages and emotional distress. 2. Restitution of all illegal profits. 3. Reimbursement for all related expenses, including notary fees, the cost of a new lock, and professional sanitation services. 4. A formal, written apology admitting to unauthorized use of the property and a guarantee to never do so again, as well as cooperation in removing all illegal authorizations on the smart lock. And 5. A cease and desist of all harassment and threats toward Mr. Carter and his family, with the reservation of the right to pursue further legal action. The lawyer's face grew grim as he read the list. We do not accept the term illegal profits. The mediator looked at him. You can refuse to accept it, and we can proceed to trial. At that point, there will be discovery, industry investigations, and administrative penalties. You can decide for yourselves which path is easier. Mark gritted his teeth and whispered something to his lawyer. A few minutes later, the lawyer looked up. We are open to mediation. Let's discuss the numbers. In that moment, Logan felt a delayed but deep sense of satisfaction. It wasn't the thrill of winning. It was the relief of finally dragging them from their position of power down to a place where they, too, had to follow the rules. When it came time to sign the mediation agreement, Mark's hand was shaking. After he signed, he looked up as if he wanted to say something to Logan. Logan didn't give him the chance. He stood up and walked out. The hallway outside the mediation room was long. He heard someone behind him call out, "Mr. Carter, can we get your number?" For the follow-up on the lock, Logan didn't look back. 2 months later, the final mediation agreement was settled. The contracting company was held liable for its actions, paid damages for both financial loss and emotional distress, and covered all of Logan's related expenses. The amount wasn't life-changing, but it was enough to hurt them. More importantly, Kevin faced legal consequences, and the contracting company was hit with administrative penalties that spread quickly through the industry. The day the agreement was finalized, Vera's father was waiting for him outside the courthouse. He was holding a large manila envelope. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. His shoulders slumped, his eyes unable to meet Logan's. Vera stood behind him. She wore no makeup, and when the wind blew, her bangs fell across her face. She looked like a teacher who had just been dismissed from class. Her father held out the envelope, his voice low and raspy. "Logan, the keys, the fobs, and that other thing, they're all in here. We came to settle this properly." Logan didn't take it. He had Jason accept it and open it in front of them. 2 manual keys, a garage fob, and a small black lockbox. Jason weighed the keys in his palm and looked up. 2 keys for 1602. Where's the third? The color drained from Vera's face. Her lips moved, as if she wanted to argue or maybe cry. But in the end, she reached in her coat pocket, pulled out another key, and dropped it into the envelope. It still had the small plastic tag on it. 1602. Logan looked at her, his voice quiet but sharp as a razor. "Stay away from my home." Vera's head snapped up, her eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and panic, but she said nothing. Her father gritted his teeth. "The bank. You were asking about the co-borrower situation. I'll take her to sign the papers. We'll follow the process. You don't have to worry about her dragging you down anymore." They actually went to the bank branch. The loan officer, Chris, saw Logan and didn't know what to say, finally managing, "You have all the paperwork. I'll get this submitted for approval right away." Vera stood at the counter and signed the forms, the tip of the pen trembling so much she could barely write her own name. When she was done, she put the pen down, turned, and walked out without a single glance at Logan. Logan stood in the middle of the bank lobby, feeling the leash around his neck finally go slack. 2 weeks later, he got a text from Chris. The change had been approved. Starting next month, the mortgage was his and his alone. Logan put the signed agreement in his briefcase, walked out of the courthouse, and looked up at a clear blue sky. Standing on the steps, he felt the heavy weight on his chest finally begin to lift. Vera sent him a few texts after that. The first one, "I'm sorry." The second, "I'm not a bad person." The third, "Please don't push me to the edge." Logan looked at the 3 messages, deleted them, and didn't reply. He knew that a single reply would drag him back into her world of chaos, and he no longer had the strength to save anyone. He changed the lock on his door. This time, he didn't buy a smart one. He bought the most basic, heavy-duty mechanical lock he could find. 3 keys, all of them in his possession. He hired a service for a deep cleaning and had the entire unit professionally sanitized. The faint smell of buffalo wings seemed to linger in the refrigerator, so he got rid of it and bought a new one. He replaced the couch. He even replaced the mattress. The delivery guy asked, "Brand new place, and you're already swapping out the mattress?" Logan just said, "Peace of mind." The delivery guy nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Some things are better left unsaid. One crisp autumn day, Logan brought the last box into his new home. The lockbox next to the fire extinguisher was long gone. The screw holes had been filled with white putty, a small, glaringly new patch on the wall. Mrs. Diaz was airing out a blanket on her balcony and saw him. She smiled warmly. "Logan, are you finally moving in for real this time?" Logan nodded. "I am." She leaned a little closer and lowered her voice. "And your fiancé? I heard you two arguing a while back." Logan smiled a little. "No fiancé anymore. It's just me." Mrs. Diaz looked surprised for a moment, then sighed. "Well, sometimes just you is better. It's peaceful. In this day and age, you have to own your own home, and you have to hold your own keys." Logan nodded. "I agree." He went inside and closed the door. The mechanical lock clicked shut, a clean, final sound. The condo was quiet. There was no cold blue light from a stranger's phone, no smell of stale takeout, no sound of unfamiliar footsteps. Logan walked to the balcony and poured himself a glass of water. It was cool, and as it went down, it felt like it was slowly extinguishing a fire inside him. He suddenly remembered Mrs. Diaz's first text. "Heard noises at your door again." It wouldn't be making any more noises, because now this home was finally completely his.